Okie dokie, this should be live now. I want to double check the audio and the visuals and make sure there's no technical issues. So give me just a second and make sure I can double check it. Hope everybody is doing well. Live watchers, bear with me a moment as I double check the audio and everything here and make sure there's no problems. Here we go. Let's go to my channel. I always forget how to go to my channel on my YouTube app. Here we go. My channel. Here we go. Let's double check this. Yep, looks okay. Perfect. Fantastic. Well, everyone, welcome to episode number 17, so 1-7 of Azren's Journal. For those of you who are new to this segment on my YouTube channel, it's pretty straightforward. This is the segment where I share my personal language learning journey with you guys, and of course a segment where I give you guys a whole bunch of different language learning advice. Let's just dive right into things. We'll start on a personal update today. My laptop, my new laptop has still not arrived, and so we are doing yet another live stream. In fact, a part of me is kind of considering actually doing live streams frequently for these videos because it's so much faster and easier to get out. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll still do the old edited style. Maybe I'll mix and match depending on how much time I have once the new laptop arrives. The bad news with the laptop is that I got an email saying that the arrival of the laptop is actually potentially going to be a little bit delayed. So, slightly annoying, but it is what it is. Let's dive into our major language learning topic, which is the title of this video here. And essentially it's about forgetting another language and talking about if it is possible to forget another foreign language. And I'm going to answer this first, and then I want to go into a little bit more context based on this. Can you guys see it? There we go. This YouTube comment here is a pretty long one. So I'll give my answer. We'll go a little bit more into context with this comment, and we'll kind of go in that direction. So first and foremost, can you forget? The answer is yes and no. Yes, in the sense that if you don't practice a language, it is reasonably simple to start forgetting. It is reasonably easy to lose the fluency that you once had. So a great example is myself. If we were to rewind, I would say back to about 2014, 15, somewhere in that time frame. I remember feeling like I was actually forgetting a lot of my French. And this is coming from someone who has studied French and learned French since the age of 5. That's like 21 years of French. I lived in France, I studied in France, all my education, or most of my education, was in French. I have a university degree in French language and literature. So even myself, I could feel and notice the drop in my French level and how I was losing it. So if it could happen to me, because at the time I wasn't really practicing my French, if it could happen to me, then yeah, absolutely, it is a thing that can happen. Now, there is a little bit of a comma, there is a little bit of a caveat, there is one thing that we have to take into account when we have this whole conversation around forgetting, right? Forgetting a language. The reality is that you can forget, but it's typically quite easy to actually pick up the language again. A great example of this is a lot of the people that I work with when I'm teaching French in my city, often they are people who did French in school to a certain extent. Sometimes it was just a couple of classes in high school. Sometimes it was a number of years of French throughout their whole education career, let's call it. And they basically feel like, oh my God, I've forgotten everything. I don't remember. I couldn't even say the simplest of things when I speak in French. And yet, they learn rapidly. They pick it up so quickly because even though if they consciously don't remember French or how to speak or how this grammar works, how this vocab works, how blah, blah, blah works, and they don't consciously remember it, they unconsciously, it is still in their brain. And so once you teach it to them, or once you go over it again, or once you've covered that concept, their brain learns it really, really fast, and they're able to pick up where they left off quite quickly. And so, ultimately, can you forget, or can you lose, maybe forget's the wrong word, but Can you lose your ability in another foreign language? Yes, 100% yes. If you don't actually practice or maintain it, for sure. Very, very possible. However, if that happens, it's going to be, relatively speaking, not difficult, quite easy for you to actually pick up where you left off and make up that ground that you lost. That is, without a question, how it works. Now, I want to go on a slightly different direction and a little bit of a different level here with the following question from a listener. So this is from, username is Bok Draken or Bok Draken. I don't really know how to pronounce it. It's BOKDRAKEN. She posted this on one of my more recent videos here. I'm going to paraphrase her comment. I'll read it a little bit, but I'll paraphrase it because it's quite long. So right now, she says, I'm at a dilemma because I speak Swedish, which is my mother tongue, and the only other language I speak fluently aside from Swedish, my mother tongue, is English. I think I'm close to an intermediate level in Spanish. I would probably achieve that after a little bit more practice. I have retained enough knowledge from high school, and I can understand most written and spoken Spanish, but I don't feel comfortable talking. I feel like I could become fluent if I really put in the work for the next few years. All this is fantastic. However, here's where we hit the problem. The problem is that she goes, on the other hand, I've also started learning Brazilian Portuguese. My husband is from Brazil, and he talks Portuguese with his family on a weekly basis. In the middle of this year, his parents came to visit us in Sweden. Since they only speak poor English and no Sweden, I felt like I needed to talk Portuguese so that they don't feel left out. I was able to make myself understood with Spanish, and some Portuguese words I had picked up with the help of my husband. My biggest problem, of course, is that I don't know any of the grammar, so everything is probably wrong. So what she goes, so what I'm asking is, would you recommend I strengthen my Spanish first and then go on to Portuguese, or learn Portuguese first and risk losing my Spanish even more in the meantime? So my whole thing with this is the following. Number one, if you were to dive into Portuguese, absolutely, you would probably, quote-unquote, lose the Spanish that you currently have. You would start to forget it because most of your attention is going on Portuguese and not Spanish. Very logical. If you choose to go that route, when you choose to go back into Spanish, it's going to actually be reasonably easy for you to pick it up again. Number one, because you already have some basis. You took some high school classes, you've been studying now, you feel like you're almost at this intermediate point, you feel like you become pretty fluent if you put in just a few more years of effort. Like you have this point where even if you forget some of it, when you go back to study, you're going to pick up that Spanish really, really fast again. So that's number one. Number two, when you jump back into Spanish, you are likely actually going to pick it up even faster because of your basis in Portuguese. Portuguese and Spanish are obviously very different, but they're also very similar in various different respects. And I remember, me personally, I actually had I had a very similar situation to this fellow commenter, Bok Draken. I like that name. Similar situation. I had probably, I would say, a mid to upper beginner level in Spanish when I went to Brazil with my soccer team. And actually maybe not beginner, I guess you could say, but not a pure beginner in Spanish. I went to Brazil with my soccer team. We were training there, we had some tournaments there, we had some games, so we went to Brazil. Obviously they speak Portuguese there. I remember being able to learn Portuguese really, really fast and pick it up quite quickly with the help of one guy who I met and I became friends with, who would kind of teach me some things, and by watching music videos. I used to watch music videos that had the subtitles, and I could piece together a lot of things with my Spanish knowledge, the Portuguese subtitles, my one friend, and this little phrase book that explained a couple little things. I picked up a lot. And I learned really, really fast for Portuguese. When I came back to Calgary, I would mix up my Spanish and Portuguese in the short term, but the Spanish came back really, really fast. So ultimately, you can pick whatever you want to do, Mr. or Mrs. or Mr. Bok Draken. You can do whatever you want to do. ultimately, this is not a decision I would overthink, though, because whatever you choose to do, it's probably going to work out for you. As your Spanish bases go up, it's going to help your Portuguese. If you choose to do Portuguese, you'll lose some Spanish in the short term. You'll gain a lot of Portuguese. When you go back to Spanish, the Portuguese you have will probably help you a lot with the Spanish anyway, and you'll pick up the stuff you already knew, and you'll pick it right back up. So either option is probably just fine. So, well, I know it's been slightly shorter than usual, only 10 minutes or so for this video. Maybe I can give you a couple of personal updates to wrap things up. I'll give you a preview. This is going to be really exciting. I am almost guaranteed now, I just got to book a couple more things, to be traveling later this year. I'm going to be in France for a little while to visit a friend of mine, obviously go back to France and practice some French again and all of that. And I'm going to be in Taiwan for a little bit as well. So I'm really excited. I haven't figured out the dates exactly, haven't figured out exactly how long. There's a lot of things that are up in the air, but that is something that is almost, I would say 90% going to happen at this point. So I'm really, really excited about that. Anyway, thanks again for watching, guys. I appreciate your attention. If you have not liked the video, but you did like, if you've not clicked the like button, but you liked the video, please do so now. Obviously, if you disliked it, feel free to dislike it. The feedback is very much appreciated. Leave me a comment below with what you thought of the video, anything you want to add, and we will talk next time. Bye for now. See you.